Thank you very much for coming. I'm going to talk about advanced persistent threats. Does anybody know what an advanced persistent threat is? Anybody got any good explanations other than the one I can think of? There's a whole bunch of views as to what an APT really is. Oh, straight in with a three-letter acronym there, an APT. So when anybody says to you, advanced persistent threat, the best way of explaining it at the moment is the pyramid of threats. If you look at a sort of this one's really dangerous at the top and the ones at the bottom are the sort of the noise. That pyramid is very flat. In fact, I think I saw someone walk in. Is Francois Numond still here? As he walked out, he's gone. I'm presenting tomorrow with a guy called Francois Numond who heads our TEI. And I said to him, we were looking at APTs and CVEs. Do you know what a CVE is? So vulnerability and IOC, incidents of compromise. We were looking at the volumes and I said, this has changed 2023 versus 2022. This is really interesting. What's happened? And he said to me, it's very simple. We got better at our job. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, we couldn't detect it last year, and this year we can. Why? Because we've had to keep track. And what you'll see with APTs is it is a race, an arms race like never before. This is like the 1960s American-Russian space race. It's like full-blown space. What is happening is extremely high quality, crafted threats are being commoditized down into other groups and individuals, so much more junior people can use them. And you can buy it off the dark web, or you can buy it on the internet, or you can be given it. Someone will say to you, here is a really nice freebie that you can then download, take and do stuff with. And the reason being for that is that they then become incredibly focused. Then above that layer, so we've got a million phishing emails, and then above that there are these really targeted long-term attacks that are based on value. So the more value they pull the asset, the more effort, the more time they're prepared to put in to get into the system. What would you consider to be a long period of time? A month? 6 months? 4 to 6 months? 2 years? How about 3 years plus? So some of the stuff's been around for 3 years plus as payload. So in other words, they do some work, they reconnaissance, the process can take up to 3 years if the value is there. So what would you consider as value in your business or in your organization? What's of value? If you're a university, is there anything valuable in a university? Research and good potato. So yeah, the content. If you are a state actor and you happen to be in media, which is like the number 2 marketplace now. So if you go back last year, it was banking was number 1, and then number 2 was crypto. Crypto's now dropped off. They're not interested in that. I wonder why. The money dropped off. So the theft value of crypto was not there anymore. It's been replaced with media, because then you can do big data analysis. You can data lake everything. You can look at it and go, aha, this is what these people think of this market or this subject. So the value is in the content. And then you can go right the way through banking, healthcare, finance. Oh, we're the world's best manufacturer of this widget, and only we know how to make this widget. And we keep that IP really, 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 really confidential in the cloud. Oh, okay. It's worthwhile spending the time to get that. So OPTs are those nasties that have been put out there that are very, very targeted, that are very specific and have real purpose. So what I'm going to do today is take you through some of the things, what an APT is, what they really look like, and talk about TEI versus ROI. Do you know what give me a definition of ROI. Somebody must know ROI. Return on investment. How do you normally typically do your ROI calc? Yeah, and typically you do an ROI on a project-by-project basis, or a product-by-product, or CapEx expenditure, and you can hide some of that if you do an OpEx model. So if you do a CapEx cost in over 3 years, you can then say, oh, this is going to cost us this, but we'll get this return on it. So what I find is when I talk to people, they tend to say, well, we're working our ROI on a project-by-project basis over a period of time. And what's the challenge with security at the moment is you're on a journey. Everybody I speak to is on a journey. Well, we've got a number of projects, Adrian. We've got this one, then we're going to do this one, then we're going to do this one. And 3 years from now, we're going to look at this. So I thought of an analogy over the weekend, because my current project basis for security is my kitchen. At home, I'm doing my kitchen. Can I, and I would ask you this very gently, and I know you don't know my wife, but I'd just like you to guess. can I take the kitchen out over a period of a year in phases logically, which is the way I want to do it as an engineer. I want to remove the floor, take the units out, strip it all down, get down to the floor, replace the floor, then do the ceiling, first fix wiring, put the units in. Or do you think she wants it all done over a weekend? So which one's the TEI and which one's the ROI? So the ROI would be sensible to do it by project and get there over a journey of maybe 2-3 years. The problem is we're talking about my wife and we're talking about security. So while you're on this journey, what's happening internally? What's actually going on is that people are looking at you, and if they want to, and there's enough interest in your particular IP, that might be money, that might be content, that might be some form of value, someone's saying, do you know what, I think I'm going to do that now because I think you're pretty weak. I don't think you've got something that's going to stop this now, and instead you're going to worry about patching. So let's think of some recent events. Who can name me a recent hack? Clop? Anybody heard of Clop? So what was that attack? What sort of attack was it? It was a file transfer attack. And it was a file transfer attack that did something about payloading into SQL. So the industry posted online, we must fix this. We should patch all of our SQL servers immediately. It's good quality. You have to have, and if you bought this would patch your services and therefore you'd all be fixed. So the question I have is, why are you worrying about a red button on the roof that you press in the event of an accident? Why don't you buy ABS, airbags, seat belts? Don't deal with the problem afterwards, prevent it as best you can. And the industry can only ever do a percentage game, 90%, high 90s, 80s. We're constantly chasing a level of protection. But the money that you get from the company is based around ROI on the project. The problem is the total exposure, the total impact of being hacked. And I have been on those calls. Genuinely, I can't do this demo, Adrian. I've got another P1. But I thought you bought an NDR. Yeah, we have an NDR, but it's your competitor's NDR. And I've spent the money, I've done the ROI on it, and I have to wait for it to expire, which is another 2 years. And the problem is it's an historic APT. We put the NDR in after the APT started. So we're playing whack-a-mole. Heard of Log4j? That's whack-a-mole. You chase it around the systems until you find it. And it's going to be there for years and years and years. There's new embedded systems that take advantage of things called PLCs, programmable logic controllers, that go over certain protocols. And by the nature of their design, OT devices are programmable logic controllers. You can put stuff in them. And then you payload into those, and then they jump across into your IT system and then attack you there. Very complex to do. It's quite hard. It takes a long period of time. The question is it worthwhile? No one is going to put an APT on my Synology server because all I've got is a few videos on it and pictures of the kids. It's not that relevant. But from a university that's a research university, that's doing cutting edge work, that's tied in with a commercial organization, that has username and password on its Office 365, and every summer it shuts down and lets a bunch of foreign students turn up with a bunch of laptops to plug in. Bring your own device. So the question is, do you ROI that over a period of years, or do you say, I need to fix this problem now, and go to the board or the management or the groups that are running the business and say, look, we need to take the kitchen out complete and replace it. Now, we need to do that quite quickly because we are playing catch up because the market's changed. We are still going to get a bunch of million emails, a bunch of phishing attacks, spear phishing, bit harder to get. We're going to still need end user protection. You can't just switch it off. You're still going to need AV. We're still going to need new switches this year. We're still going to need to upgrade the network. But also we're going to need some of this other stuff which goes towards APTs, because if we don't do it, the impact will be devastating. Not just from a technical standpoint or from a data lockout, but I have had the conversation. There's two stories I'll tell you. One is from a purple team that went to a bank which had a team of 300 people in that division, and the purple team went in and said, we're here to help. And they said, great, well, there's 300 people in this room. We will all do anything we can to help you. We don't know whether we have a job. I don't know whether I am employed because I cannot get in my email. You do not want to be that guy. The second story was a story I had, which was we had a situation where we went through the presentation. This was about 6 months ago. Presented to a company, and they were there, but they're so niche. I can't tell you how niche they are. In fact, they're so niche. If I explain to you what they did, you'd probably say, well, I can guess who the company is. They were making a product for animals. Let's just say that. And there's like 2 of them in the world that are this big company, but they obviously got IP. They were hacked. It was ransomware. It was payloaded in an old CVE, like 2018. So somebody exploited a vulnerability to put a new payload in. They locked the system up, and the guy said, we in the whole demo said, yeah, it's really interesting, Adrian. We'd love to do a POC. We've got some units here. We've got a little operation here. There's like a porter cabin with 2 guys in it in this region. And we said, yeah, no problem. He said, it's great that you can deal with this stuff. We haven't got anything like this before, but when we got hacked, so hold on, they locked up. We found it, or we think we saw it, but it went through, and it did about 1/3 of the assets in the company, and we had to take a director's loan out to pay the ransomware off because we couldn't get in the bank accounts. This is real stuff. This is like somebody genuinely in that situation, and it's terrifying at one level. And the industry sells on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD has been the 20 years. I've been doing this 30 years, 20 in IT security, and we're experts at saying, "Ooh, buy this, otherwise it won't work." The frustration is that the technology and the danger is accelerating so fast that we can't keep up with it. We are constantly playing catch up with what we're doing, and these guys are very, very good. So let's have a quick look at what we're talking about in terms of volume. You'll see this, 23 attacks in the last year. That's what's growing. Oh no, hold on. It's a bit bigger than that. You can't see that at the back. It's trillions of dollars. $23 trillion is the value of the attacks. We're not talking millions or pounds or a couple of dollars here, 23 trillion, because no one wants to report it. Well, you hacked. Yeah, it was terrible. We lost all the... No one says that. They always sort of look at the wall. But when you do see the outcome of it, it's serious. So there's 2 sorts of attack. The old attack used to be, we've locked up your stuff, pay the ransom, and we'll unlock it. And they would be successful in about 30%, or they would just be straight theft. The new way, which is this total economic impact issue, is this. I've locked up your stuff. I've broken in your house, and I've stolen your television. New television, pay an extra £1 on the premium, get a new telly. Happy days. I've also stolen all your family photographs, and that, your particular hobby, all that stuff you've collected over time, I've nicked all of that. You can have it all back, but you've got to pay me. How much are you willing to pay? And then they start prodding you. We'll release your information. All those photographs we took of you and that other girl, the one you saw the other week, we're going to stick them on the internet. We'll start sharing them with your wife. So they will offer your technology to your competitors. They will take your technology and offer to pay you back, and you've no idea whether they are going to give it to you back. But you're in a world of pain at that point. You're trying to resolve what you've got. You can't get your systems, and you want to get your stuff back. So that is what that represents, 23 trillion, both commercial theft, IP theft, financial theft. And most banks, in terms of retail or insurance, the Visa thing, they're all covered. They claim off the merchants. So you as the end user are covered, but the merchant pays. I don't know whether you're aware of that. So if there's a hack or a breach or they steal your credit card data, the merchant gets done. I had one, this is going back in the early days of bricks and mortar. And I'd set up a company called Office Shopper, which was the first company which was doing office supplies online, because people rang round trying to save a penny on a pencil when you could then just buy it on the internet. So it was a good business to be in. And we had a young girl who'd come into a call centre. I bought Bertelsmann's call centre, which was a 70-seat call centre in Chertsey with a big AT&T switch. Had a big outlet, yes, hello, no problem, take the orders, credit lines, etc., etc. This girl started in the call centre. We only found this out after the event. Started trading, selling a few bits and pieces, the odd toner cartridge, the odd pencil, the odd ruler, and the thing built up over a period of weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then she started selling more toner to other companies. Then suddenly she ordered 30 pallets of HP toner cartridges, which were a lot of money in those days. Shipped the lot to an address in Liverpool. They were delivered. It was all paid for on a corporate credit card. The revenue went through, the deal went through. We had our 60-day payment. We got that cycle through. Then Visa queried it. That was another 60 days payment. 180 days later, we realised it was a fraud. And Visa went, you clicked on it, you processed it, you shipped it, your problem. You pay that way and you pay us this way. So we had to pay the supplier, and we also had to pay the bank. So if you're in the middleman situation and you do any trading, you still are responsible. What's the only company that doesn't do that? Anybody got any ideas? I'll give you a quick clue. What's the contactor's credit limit on your card? Used to be £30 before COVID. Post-COVID, it was £100. If you walk in an Apple store and you walk up to the thing and said, I'd like to buy 15 of those iMacs, please, 16 Apple TVs, all the headphones, and it's 23 grand, £560, you can pay by Apple Pay on the phone. You go, bleep. And the reason you can do that is that Apple own the tokenization for the entire device all the way through. So it's their bank, underwritten by another company, their transactions, their servers, their middleman, their gateway, their payments gateway, their fraud checks, and the device that just paid from is their phone with their secure enclave on it, with their security on it. So it's a soup to nuts, front to back. They're the only people that do that. Samsung can't do that because of Android. It's an open operating system, but they have a completely secure OS, so you can buy any amount of stuff with an Apple. It's the only closed loop system. So really what you want to try and do is build yourself exactly that, a closed loop system that no one else can get in. Who uses the cloud? Anybody got the cloud in their business? Yeah, sort of. Who uses the cloud? Oh, yeah. So I've got Office 365, absolutely love it. The British government use Office 365, MOD use it, it's lovely. Would you put everything in it? That's the perfect answer. When you go to say to someone, I always do these questions and say, when were you hacked? Tuesday. No, when were you hacked? Not when did you find it, when were you hacked? Tuesday. Do you use the cloud? Oh yeah. Is it secure? And there's that element of doubt where you should be going, yeah, of course it is. Do you put everything in it? Not everything. It's about where you draw the boundary. Where is going to be your perimeter? Where do you draw the line where you say, this is of no value. I don't really care if someone sees pictures of my kids or my wife or whatever. No, just shove it out there. But other things, my mortgage, my bank accounts, my personal stuff, something I care deeply about, those special photographs we took the other week, you want to keep those secure. So it depends on where those lines are drawn, as to where that line is drawn. And this problem is not keeping those lines drawn. How bad is it? This is the best graphical representation I've ever seen, because it's just so obvious, but it really isn't, because people don't think about it. We cannot keep up with the speed of how fast these guys are developing. So you're going to leave this event, you're going to wander downstairs and you're going to go, oh, I really fancy buying a CTI. Do you know what CTI is? Anybody know what CTI is? Threat intelligence. One of these things that pops up and says, this is a threat, and it's a categorization system, and then you can use it with an NDR, so a network detection response system, to find and identify a threat. It's a categorization. Someone finds it. It's either a honeypot on the web, or it comes over the wire, or someone discovers it, or an engineer at CrowdStrike or Microsoft. Someone around the world finds this IOC or the CVE, turns it into a threat, puts it up on the system. It gets classified by somebody, MITRE, and then says, this is a threat. This is something you need to be aware of. It's a newly developed type of attack. Now, it might be a really simplistic one. It might be a really complicated one. How many of those do you think, one of the questions to ask when you go down there, say, oh, we look for 0 day and we look for this. So how many of those do you look for every month? How many do you think they look for every month? 10,000? How many threats do you think happen a week? New things or variations on a theme, because a lot of it is, because remember that very flat pyramid, there's lots of stuff going on down here and a little bit up the top are very special. So typically a CTI will turn around and say, we look at 14,000 threats a day or a week or a month. 15,000. I said, oh, that's a lot. 14,000, that's quite a lot. And so I spoke to the guy who runs our CTI division. He said, we look at 1 million threats a day and we're behind. It's 1 million a day. So what you've got is this thing, it's amazing technology. Have you heard about it? I know I'm going to shock you here. Have you heard of a thing called AI? It's really new, it's a brand new system. And AI is amazing because it develops things itself. So if you give it something like an old hack or an old way of doing things and then put it through an AI engine, it'll say, we can make this better. We can sharpen this up. We can electronically produce a better version of what happened before. So you can build new things easily. If you were the state of somewhere and you said, you know what, I really want to upset Adrian. I really want to make his life hell. I think I'll do a DDoS attack on his house because we just don't like him. and they build a DDoS attack, and they may use new technology, they may use old technology. Then they'll come at you, they'll try and break your system, stop it, shut it down, flood it. That's happening faster than we can keep up. And we actually track internally. So if you go to the Gatewatcher website, you can look at a thing called the threat barometer, and you can track how many threats are happening, what they're from, the volume, the type, the operating system, the place they're coming, and then you can drill down into those CVEs and look at them. And we publish that every month. And we know we're not doing a good enough job, which is quite unusual because most companies, we are a security company, by the way. You've probably never heard of us. The reason is simple. We're an engineering firm. We make security technology. We hold a thing called ANIS, which is the French National Security Agency's qualification for security. We are not a software vendor. We're a security company. So we supply a large percentage of France's critical national infrastructure, so banking, finance, but then you start moving into Airbus, you start moving into EDF, companies that make power stations, companies that build ships, things that go underwater. So we make a lot of stuff, and we are struggling to keep up. So this security incident thing is a real problem, and it's accelerating. It's becoming faster and quicker. So the question is, will you be hit? Who believes they'll have an issue in the next 2 months? No, maybe. Okay, so one kind of maybe. You reckon you don't know. The issue is exactly that. You don't know what you don't know. You might have some random email that it gets flagged up on your AV or your email scanning tool or whatever, and you can stop it and you know what it's about. But I'm sure the people at Microsoft didn't sit down 2 days ago and go, you know what, we think we're sorted here. We're covered. The BBC had a meeting probably 2 months ago and went, how much money have we done on IT security, Steve? Well, we've done absolute millions. Over the last 20 years, we spent a fortune. We're super secure because we're media. Brilliant. Are we going to get hacked? No. We've got all the stuff we need. Guess what? Same thing with Boots. Same thing with British Airways. In fact, every company you're going to see here and every company you represent is going to wander around with the belief you've got everything and you've got it covered because you're either told it by, and we've seen this, and I've actually been, literally 24 hours ago, I had a phone call with a research university. You may have heard University of Manchester got done. Sadly. So I contacted another university and said, what's the best way to protect yourself? If you and another guy are being attacked by a lion, what's the one thing you have to do? Be faster than the other guy. So the reality is it's just like securing your house. If you've got a Ring camera on the front door and a camera up on the thing and this, they're just going to go next door. Sadly, that's fine. So I was interested in protecting people from that and said, look, we will ship you stuff right now in software and get it up and running in the next 30 minutes, and I'll give it to you as a demonstration. And they went, well, how do we? Look, we'll do it for you, and it'll be 30 minutes, but do it. Because if you don't, and you have an APT attack, you will not know. You do not know what you don't know. I spent a few years before this doing 2FA, multi-factor authentication. Who runs 2FA? Great. Good. We did a reasonable job. I ran three different 2FA companies or MFA companies. One which was in the cloud for many years. My crypto card. Anybody heard of that? CryptoMaz. Sold out to Gemalto, now SafeNet, now Thales. Great product. First one in the cloud, really. Competing against RSA. And I used, my tagline for that was cheaper than a cup of coffee, because they were much cheaper than buying SID 700s, because Qi-Anxin had come out with and attacked the seed codes and were publishing seed codes. You could buy a thing called Qi-Anxin, which generated the next seed code for your RSA token. It's quite reality again. Oh, we're perfectly secure. And then the other thing was, are you? Because if you can't prove and protect the end user, the person who's logging in, are you, then you've lost before you started. If they're emulating you, as far as the security system is concerned, they're happy. You're in. Come on in. Do what you like. Whereabouts in the network? Oh, go anywhere you like. You're Tony. You can do what you like, Tony. You've got the credentials to go wandering around the system. So you don't know what's going on. So there's a layering approach, this thing where the old model was onion skinning, north to south. Now you also have to do east to west, and now you've got OT and IoT. So a whole bunch of entry points. If I was going to rob your house, would I attack at the front door, or would I nip over the fence and find the key where you hid it to unlock the back? You say, oh, yeah, I better move that. We all do it. It's just habit. The problem you've got is that this is becoming a real problem. And it's very focused. It's a tiny percentage. If you look at the millions of attacks, you're looking at 0.01, 0.02%, which are APTs. But if you get hit with an APT, it's a serious attack. It's either been generated by a state or by a criminal gang for long-term process for gain. And you'll see how they work. This is this issue. Okay, it's a summary slide. You can read it. You don't need me to read it to you. You just can't shut things down. You're not going to be able to walk into the next meeting and say, do you know what, we should stop doing everything until we secure the company and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to wear that. So you've got to try and build a rocket ship on the way to the moon, a bit like we do in the IT sector when we're selling stuff, building a business. We're always constantly trying to evolve the technology, which is why the industry will always turn around and say, the next release will fix that. We'll cure it in the next release, sir. It gets better. We are constantly playing catch up. It will have a direct and immediate impact. As I said, I actually sadly had a conversation with a customer where he genuinely couldn't access any of his systems. And this has happened. This business, our business, was born out of a hack back in 2014 into BNP Paribas, where an APT, it was actually shellcode, attacked the system, shut down the entire BNP network worldwide for 7 days. So the CISO said it was literally the worst week of his life because every 30 minutes a board member would phone him up and say, are we back yet? Are we trading? And AI is fantastic at building new weapons, and that's exactly what it is. They're weaponizing and putting stuff out there. And it has a direct impact on your entire business. I mean, genuinely, I remember receiving my first email a long time ago because I used to fly an awful lot, travel an awful lot. BA said through, we're really sorry, Mr. Jones. We appear to have lost your data. Who has been the victim of some form of attack where they've sent you an email saying, we're really sorry, but... what's your view of that company now? How do you feel about the brand? How do you feel about the company's status in your mind? Do you feel they're still secure? Do you think you should be sharing your data with them still? Do you feel the GDPR? Have you filled in the little form that says, get your money back, sue these guys for every penny they're worth because they lost your data? I got quite a few emails from that. And we were talking very, very briefly about cyber insurance. Cyber insurance is great. When it first started up, it was, again, this post-problem issue. And then, like anything, if a lot of people claim and a lot of people don't take it out, it's expensive. So there's only two ways. You've got to sell more of it, or you've got to try and get out of the claim, or not pay as much, or work out what you're going to pay and what you're not going to pay. So the question is do I go to the doctor? I go to the doctor regularly, and he says, Mr. Jones, have you lost weight? Have you stopped drinking? So you're looking after yourself then? No, not really. So, okay, I'm not complying with my code that I agreed to. Your insurance is invalid, Mr. Jones. If you drop down dead of heart attack, it's your own stupid fault. They won't pay out, or they'll pay out limited amounts. They will audit you post-hack, and then you will have to go through the process where you tick the box. Did you? Yes. Did you? Yes. So the database was encrypted? Yes. And you had nothing in the cloud? Oh. And that was encrypted? Oh. And you stopped? Oh, sorry. So they will go through that process. There is an impact for you, for your customers, for your internal people, for your board. And they're the worst because, as you know, you give an iPad to a board director and he uses, opens it up and doesn't have any passwords on it. Then the next one is customers. And what's the bit I haven't mentioned, which is probably the worst offender and the best people you want to try and keep happy and the biggest risk? Suppliers. Suppliers. And then there's this other person, risk and compliance, who's sitting there saying it's your fault. I told you should have done better. It's like health and safety. Did you have a yellow bib on? If you didn't, your problem. So everybody's pushing on you to make things work properly. And in case you haven't noticed, just in recent weeks, it doesn't work properly because the industry sells stuff that doesn't quite work or doesn't quite work together or is okay, but is not keeping up with current trend. And no one will tell you anymore what to buy. It's down to you guys and finding out the knowledge. And I've got really big news for you. IT companies may not tell you everything totally accurately. They might kind of gild the lily somewhat because they might want to sell you stuff. So the first lesson of the workshop is, as you know, don't drink the bathwater. Have a look, make your own judgments on what will work and what won't work, because it's going to be on you. It's going to be on you to provision something that works, but it's going to be a maze of trying to work out what to buy to protect you. Don't look at post-event. Try and look pre. You can protect yourself, but you've got to be very careful about what you buy. And the information sources, what you call trusted advisors, are really hard. The industry's changed a lot. When I first started, when you went to a partner, there were some really amazing people there who really knew this stuff. Now there is an awful lot of what I call the younger generation. It's my fault. Both my sons work in the industry. One works for Ring Central, the other one works for Thales, and they're both young and they're very smart, but they're not exactly technical geniuses, sadly. They didn't go to engineering school. They drink the marketing bathwater and then talk to you about it. And sometimes they do exactly what they say on the tin, sometimes they don't. You can listen to third-party research. It's not a bad option. Forrester, Gartner, IDC, there's loads of them. And in fact, there's ones in different verticals as well. Have you seen this one over here? This is the Gartner SOC triad. These are the things you need if you're running a security operations center to protect yourself. If you buy this, you stand a chance of defeating the bad guys. So they say you should buy EDR. Everybody know what EDR is? Endpoint detection response resolution. So put an agent on a PC. If you've got a manufacturing plant in China, I strongly suggest you install EDR on that house 5-way access CNC machine that you bought. Oh yeah, it doesn't work because it's OT. That's a shame. But you are going to send computer programs to it with critical IP for the business to make parts that are super fast. I've got a friend of mine who runs an engineering firm up in Yorkshire. He makes all his money worldwide. He's a lovely, lovely man. His company pool car is a Range Rover SVR. So if you're one of the engineers that work there and you need to borrow a car, you borrow the SVR. It was a Lamborghini Aventador, but someone crashed it. The reason he makes all this money, he has a string of house 5-way access CNC machines, and his guys are clever enough to write the CNC program to carve seconds off of each production part. If each production part is programmed to go faster, you can produce more. Now, anybody can do that, except this is a piece of metal with a machine tool spinning around at high speed, digs into the work's trashed, the tool's trashed, the machine's trashed, you have to reset it all. So there's a real fine line between being super fast and super accurate and trashing the whole system. He got hacked. Guess what they were after? They're after the machining issues. They're after that digital list of what the controls are for the CNC machine, and they keep them in files. They use a particular protocol, and they were after them. They don't put them in the cloud. They keep them locally, and luckily they were in an encrypted format on a offline server, air gap. Reason being, he's got a mate who works in the defence sector who said, "Oh, I wouldn't keep that there. I'll put that over there," and he did, and it saved his bacon. And so he's still trading. So SIEM, why is SIEM good? Why should you have EDR? By the way, how much is it to turn off EDR? How much will it cost you if you want to get around it? Spyboy, look it up, don't click on the link. Spyboy is $350 per vendor. It's $3,500 for 64 or 65 vendors. Spyboy is not a clever thing. It was a derivative of something else, but it essentially disables endpoint. So you can turn off endpoint security as a hacker and get past it. So be careful when you look for EDR, when you go downstairs, you have to wander around. So how do you deal with that? By the way, Spyboy was discovered by CrowdStrike, who are still writing an agent to stop it. So SIEM, who uses SIEM? Who uses EDR? A few people. SIEM, you got SIEM? What does SIEM do? Yep. And what's its main purpose? Seek out threats. That's what it does. It's a log. Why is that a good thing to have? You know what's happened. Why do you need to know what's happened? Sure, you want to look forward all the time and what 0-day stuff, you know, what might be. Good answer. Yeah, you're right. Why do you need a SIEM? Because we turn up and we say, you should buy an NDR. See, it's part of that puzzle. Get yourself an NDR. And they say, oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. Oh, I love an NDR. Can you find out what happened 2 years ago when we had an APT hackers? No. Why not? Well, because you haven't got a SIEM. There's no history to look at. We don't have any information to parse. Likewise, we only keep 60 days of information on the box. So if you then look for something that happened 2 years ago, supposing you have a 0-day. Who knows what a 0-day attack is? Everyone nods. Who had a 0-day attack 2 years ago? not the guy with the seam. So you don't know. So when the new attack comes out and we work out that that is a new zero-day attack, what's the first thing we do? We stop the zero-day attack. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. We then look historically through all the records that are on that seam, and we try and find out whether it exists or whether a derivative of it existed or the version 1 of it existed, because that's what would have happened. So you don't know what you don't know. You could have had a zero-day attack 3 years ago. You just don't know. And it's been ticking away, doing stuff for the last 2-3 years. And it's going to do something soon. And you'll have to deal with it. So the combination of the three is a good thing. EDR, it's like, should I buy AV? No, sir. If you buy this product, then you will not need it. And that's rubbish. You need AV. Should I? I don't need to buy database encryption then. No, you need to buy database encryption. So if I buy this, then I don't need the cloud. No, you'll probably need the cloud. I love the cloud. Saves me a load of time. Love SaaS-enabled apps. Would I keep all my IP on there? Absolutely not. So a combination of things gives you, from a SOC perspective, and this is purely talking about SOC, Security Operations Center. Who runs a SOC? Anybody here? Big companies? Great stuff. How, again, biggest companies we've dealt with. What's your SOC? Terry, you mean? I thought you had a SOC. Yeah, Terry. He's in the company, he's got a laptop and he looks at the screen once a day and tries to work out what's happened. You want to automate that as much as humanly possible, because it's incredibly difficult. Because if we detect things that are going on the network that are bad, guess how often that occurs? How many did I say a day? 1 million. So guess what? If you've got a load of stuff that isn't sorting it through, he'll get hundreds of thousands of things to look at and he'll be brain dead by 2 o'clock. Terry will be sitting there looking at Google, scrolling at YouTube going, I don't care anymore. So the trick is to identify the threats and not look at all the other stuff, to report that up and stop it. Why do you want to stop it as opposed to treat it afterwards? I know that's a really dumb statement to make, but again, I'm in this workshop and I have these meetings and I've spent a year doing this to people, and some people absolutely get it. I've done things and had those conversations and thought, wow, you are on it. I'm going to buy from you. I'll buy my whatever, or I'll invest my whatever with you because you absolutely get it. And then I've spoken to other people in very large organizations and gone, you're going to patch everything. You're going to try and resolve this after the event somehow. You're going to try and insure against it, or you're going to try and mitigate against it, or you're going to proactively scan to look for something that's happened in the past. Why don't you try and stop it? Some things are really good at that, and you can try and find those out. There is a big initiative from the government to move towards cyber resilience and away from just generic views of things, and that's really good. They're not allowed through NSC, National Computing Security, or through the centres to say, look, buy this product, or even buy from this vendor. But what they'll start to do, I think, in the next 2 years is start to say, these are the sorts of technologies that you should be looking at. Should you buy multi-factor authentication? Of course you should. They've done that already. Go and get 2FA. So they start to build up a bigger picture. Gartner have gone out and said, this is what you need if you're a SOC. You want to protect your network. Why do you want to protect your network and not your server? Networks first. First thing they hit. Where's the edge of your network? Well, that's a good one. No. So the internet is the edge of your network. Good luck protecting that. So this is the problem. Where is your boundary? I've called it a digital citadel. I can't think of any other. Do you remember when you were a kid, you went round and you medieval, and they had these walls facing in at each other, and there was a moat, and there was a tower. And think of it in those terms. That sort of old security model of client, server, host, dumb terminal. You could lock everything down. And guess what? And this was a really interesting. I had a call the other week with a journalist who was talking about something, and he said, remember the old days when you had buildings and people went in them and now it's all remote. He said, yeah, that's true actually. In the old days, I could lock the network down because it was in a building. I just said, no one comes in the door, and you had a HID card, and that was it. Now they're all at home, and they got a VPN, and they got the kids on it, and everyone's looking at all these websites, and so web filtering, and I've got these UTMs, and which is great, and that gets rid of this million per day rubbish. But it's the clever stuff you've got to watch out for, because the impact on the business is the issue. It's not an issue from a security perspective or a data loss issue. It's the fact that at some point you're going to have to wander in and go, we can't do that anymore. So one of the comment was, we can't make anything at the moment because the manufacturing line stopped. I was like, okay. So what's the plan? Well, we're going to provision the technology to stop that and supply it to all of our host companies as a service. In essentially, we become a specialized VAR within our own organization and buy from our resellers and take the advice from them, build out the technology and then supply internally, which is quite a good piece of logic. So there are some sort of good research companies out there. I mentioned Forrester, I mentioned Gartner, IDC. They've all got standards. Then what are you trying to achieve with this? This onion skin, this perimeter. Define your level of risk. Which bits you're happy to just potentially be at risk on the level of exposure. Then define where you want to put them. And think of it in terms of physical security. Build some walls, get some cameras, get some sensors, buy some better door locks, maybe put 2FA on, fingerprint, maybe put whatever keys, and then some stuff you want to keep in that pocket and wander around with and put on a USB in your pocket. Some stuff you want to put in a safe and lock the safe in a room with two blokes out the front with a big gun. That's traditional security models. And the transition between these is through the network. That's the way in. It's the only way in, because no one's going to send you a bloke who's going to knock on the door with a shotgun and go, I'll rock up to the post office, give me all your money. They're not going to do that. They don't do that anymore. They log in, they do the damage over the internet, they leave. And that happens over months and months and months, in some cases years. So look at what you want to deliver, what levels of security you can afford, and then try and work out your ROI model against the functionality of the value of the data. So if you're a bank and someone says to you, you should buy an NDR, you say, that's brilliant. What happens if it does a false positive? Well, it will block it. Hold on, that's we're a clearing bank. You're telling me that thing's going to stop a $25 million transaction over MIPS? It might. Don't do that. Have a human in the system somewhere, and you'll see when it comes to critical infrastructure or critical data levels, healthcare, banking, military, government, keep the human in the loop. You cannot use AI. It is exactly that. It is artificial intelligence. It is not real, and you'll see why. So look at the costs. What do you got to buy? We know that hardware, software investment, all the good stuff. These are your typical ROI type models. But look at the associated human resource. We've talked about the biggest risk. In the old days, we used to keep that quite high. It's now dropped quite considerably, the human factor. In the old days, we used to talk about social engineering, people coming up to the front door. Hello, my name's Adrian Jones. I'm here to service the fire extinguishers. Yeah, here's my badge. I'd just like to get, you've got a key to the server room, haven't you? Yes, I'll be 2 minutes. That used to be the way into the system. They were always in a building. Now it's in a DC somewhere, shut down level 4 bunker, and it's nowhere near, or a DR site. The people in the business are the risk. I didn't know, I just clicked on the link, and that's my mother, my wife, my sons, my brother, clickety click. I didn't know, I just clicked it. That's the biggest issue, training. What's your training budget? Have you talked to the HR team about the training? What do you train them on? What are the priorities? You will need to educate them, because they'll use the standards that they have at home and they'll bring those to work. And guess where home is? The work. Guess where work is? Home. So we are used to that, the level of security that we have at home. Everybody can get everything. There's a great story about a DDoS attack, or a DDoS attack that was many years ago, that was that held up a major UK corporate, and they tracked it back to one of the members of staff who was at home and had her laptop open all day, and the laptop was incredibly warm. So the cat used to sit on the laptop, press down the keys, and just flood the data line all the time, because it was permanently connected over the VPN. Quite difficult to stop as well. So teach your people, look at the risks associated to the value of the data that you have and the exposure you have. If it's core IP, if it's banking information, if it's research critical information, the things that you hold dearest, make sure they are properly secure and spend the money to make them so. Other things, okay, no one cares about my email. I write rubbish emails. Flexibility. Oh, we love flexibility. Everyone talks about flexibility and scalability in this industry. Have you ever seen any flexibility or scalability? Oh, well, that would have worked, but you need version 6.4.2.2, which is only £10,000 million more. We'd love to add to that, but our new version, version 10 Pro, That solves that problem. There's always an upgrade or a physical change to something. Try and look for vendors that have modularity in their systems. A number of the hardware vendors do it now, a number of the software vendors do it, and the technology is there to do it, whether that's Kubernetes, container-based software. Securing that is a challenge, by the way. Cloud is incredibly hard to secure by the nature of the beast. Where would you park your car? House next, in your house, in the garage, on the street, or in an NCP? Which one's more secure? Don't know, it's hot, I'm too tired. Go on, where would you park? Which one's more secure? NCP, your house, or on the street? It depends. Depends how secure your house is, depends how secure your garage is, depends what level of security the NCP is. People do long-term deep storage of really expensive cars in NCPs in London, but it's 25, 30 quid a day because they've got amazing security systems. I can park my car in the NCP where I live and I know it's going to get smashed up in a day. It'll take me a day to walk round. And that's the problem with the cloud. Are you in a multi-tiered, multi-tenant environment, or are you in a hybrid mode? Because that's the new trendy term, hybrid, which means a bit of both. Or are you in a fully air-gapped, it's disconnected, it never talks to the internet type mode? The right hammer, right tool for the right job. Try and work out which bits you're happy with and where to put it. And the benefits. This is a real biggie. When you do your ROI, force the vendor or your supplier to give you the benefits analysis of what it means by looking at the outcome of the total economic impact of losing it. What happens if it goes wrong? Do the FUD analysis in your mind. If this really did happen to me, which as we said before, are you going to get hacked in the next 2 months? You all went no. And one chap was honest. Maybe. But if you're honest with yourselves and you think, no, what would it mean if that happened and how severe would it be? What would be the impact in the business? What hoops would I have to go through? What hoops would the people that are with me have to go through? And what would it mean to the other areas? So I had a conversation, again, manufacturing company said, this cannot go down for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, that's it. That's my entire 5 nines SLA for the year, 20 minutes. I said, well, what do you do security-wise? I said, well, we keep that bit over there, and then there's this bit over here, and then there's this bit over here, and none of them touch each other. I said, well, what's the problem? He said, because the board have said we are going to be integrated in cloudy. We're moving to the cloud. It's a business directive based on cost. We're saving money by going to the cloud. So, brilliant. You will save money, but you'll spend money as well. It'll create problems. You'll have to spend them on security to try and lock down the risk of moving from an internal air-gap system no one can touch to potentially an OT controlled system. Anybody got OT, IoT? Do you know what OT is? Do you know what IoT is? Everyone nods. Yep. Okay, brilliant. So are you using SCADA? Do you use Modbus 1 or Modbus 2? Are you using EIP? Are you using the Honeywell or are you using the Siemens protocol underlays? Which of your computer technology is looking at that protocol flow? If I was a hacker, where would I put my payload? Would I put it in TCP/IP, HTTP, or would I put it in EIP or, yeah, I'll put it somewhere else. So there's a whole bunch of companies, a whole bunch of people, and a whole bunch of suppliers out there that are working on that. There's some people that are doing it dedicated on their own right. American companies who are building technology that will stop that, which is brilliant. There are also companies out there that are, like ourselves, who bolt that protocol stack into our existing technology, looking at the cross-flow, the jump between IoT into IT. And there are others that are trying to do just IT only. Look at all the benefits. Which industry you're in. This is real data. This is actually internal data. So this is a profile of a snapshot of our customer base. And we pulled out, essentially asked them what areas of the business have they analysed as the biggest risk issues. So if you're an industrial area, cost is extremely high to you. Now that means cost as in potential downtime of making things. That's your biggest area of compromise. If you're in healthcare, you're split between cost and risk. Cost and risk, healthcare. Name me some hacks in healthcare. Anybody hacked any healthcare systems? Yeah, WannaCry was a good one. That was a great one. I'll give you an unusual one. They hacked into the command language for the PLC for insulin pumps about 6 years ago. And the same protocol stack exists in pretty much every medical device because it's a common protocol. And now it was OT enabled. They could then go in through the web to control the box and then deliver different. It was a test. They didn't actually do it. I'm sure no one would ever do that. But the risk for this industry is exactly that. We lost your data, Mr. Stevens. We're really sorry. So they're more interested in data loss, the threat of modification of content and data leakage or data theft. There have been some interesting cases where individuals have had things flagged up on their medical records that have been placed there by other parties for other reasons. I hate to tell it, Mr. Richards, but you're due an operation next week. We've checked your records. You definitely need open heart surgery. You'll be out of the business for about 3 years. We know that you're the in charge of the shipping business, but we'd like you to. So they can do all sorts of things. And then over here, energy. It's a bit more of a split risk. Energy is a funny one. When you talk about CTI and you talk about CNC or C2 communications, the protocols that make things happen, switch things on and off, these guys have got water pumping stations that run cooling plants that make hot things cold. Always worth protecting those. So when you go and you say, is your company secure? Yeah, oh yeah. How is it secure? Well, we're a security company. Anything that says why? Well, yeah, we've been doing security for years. So look for companies that have got some form of endorsement that they do make security products and that those products are secure. Got any military customers, banking customers, government customers, some proof points that you actually do make things secure. We had a great one. We supply hardware because looking at all of the protocols simultaneously and building them into files is quite hard. It's heavy on the network and we can go up to 600 gig, like telco level. And we have to dictate exactly what goes in the box. Not for our own purposes, but because the people that give us the authority, you're going to tick the box and say you're secure. It has to be that particular Ethernet board, that particular power supply. They will not accept anything else, otherwise you're breaching standards and that's it. You're gone. So banking again, guess what? Their risk is benefit. That's the big issue for them, data loss. If your bank gets hacked and they pull all the money out of your account, they move it around, you're not going to go back to that bank. So the people data, they've got it sussed, these guys. When I say to you about people that spend money on all the technology, guess who spends all the money on the technology? Why? Because they know what the value of their data is. They've got that nailed down. They know exactly what it is and they've got it done very well. These guys, not so sure, particularly with OT and IoT. They're pretty good, I have to say, small pieces of them. If anybody wants a bit of a joke, go find someone from the national grid and ask them how it works. You'll get the woolliest answer possible, which is great. Love that. Unless healthcare's a nightmare. Over-regulated, massively complicated, loads of decision processes, very difficult for budget, incredibly complicated systems, medical gases, computing, OT, infrastructure, personnel, big piles of paper, thousands and millions of different computer systems, loads of legacy, really tough. But again, trying to work out where that data goes and where the perimeters of the business are, in the case of healthcare, is a tough one. So work that out in your own terms. Think through your business, your organization. Think through what things you would be worried about, the flexibility, the benefit of putting the system in, or is it pure risk reward? This is an old advert. This came from Microsoft. This is talking about threats, and this is talking about billions of loss to cyber attacks in 2017. Remember then? A long time ago. And it's 8.9 billion, 2.2 of Thailand's GDP, which I thought was great. And they start talking about APTs in here, and the threat and the risk, and why it's dangerous. This is back in 2017. It's been around for a long time. The most latest ones, I think the last batch when I did eCrime, which was about 4 months ago, the CVEs that enabled the set of malware that was happening at that particular time was a vulnerability from 2012. So everyone says, oh, we patched that. We got rid of that vulnerability in 2012. No, you didn't. They just changed it, they modified it, and they reproduced it and sent it out. So look at this. Hardware, CapEx, look at your TCO. How much money are you spending on it? How many full-time employees is this thing going to take? Can I hit a button? Will it generate a report? Will it generate me a report that tells me the value to the business, or will it generate me a technical report giving me a list of things that went wrong? Which one's more valuable to you? I've not seen many systems, to be truthful, that literally hit a button and it goes and says, we saved you from this in the last 3 weeks. That's worth something. And then you can translate into value. Very difficult to find from a lot of vendors. What did you, we prevented you from this. What exactly? What was the benefit to me? What was the benefit to the business? Insurance offset. Talked a little bit about that. We bought these things. Will this offset against the cost? I have a customer. My system's being paid for by his insurance offset. He is the whole lot, 100%. Because you put that in, they go, oh, we can tick that off, tick it. Yeah, brilliant, thank you. And the way they offset it is not the fact that I'm protecting them 100%. It's they're likely to try something, get an idea that it hasn't worked, and then move on to someone else. But if it's an APT, they'll keep going because of the value. Threat exposure reduction. This is the business stuff over here. Business breakdown probability. We stopped manufacturing for 20 minutes. In fact, it was actually 3 days. Time to remediate. Does everybody know what the time to detection and time to remediation is in their business? So how long did it take me to find it? So those questions I asked. Here's some uncomfortable questions. You write them down. When did you get hacked? Where did it go? When I say where did it go, because it's a north-south attack vector, did it go sideways? What did you do to stop it? What did you do to fix it? Have you fixed it? Can you prove any of that to anybody? Yourself, your team, the board. And if you can't answer the yes to those, then you've got to really reassess it, because that's the problem you're going to face in reality. Oh, we definitely fixed it. How do you know? Well, and again, I see this time and time again, stuff that pops up, particularly APTs, because they dwell, they hang around. So the time to detection, the sooner you kill it, the sooner you find it, the sooner you detect it, the sooner you kill it, the quicker, the less impact it will have. It is foolhardy for anybody to stand up and say, we will stop all of that. That is not reality. The percentage chance reduces, that's all. How low? It depends on when you ask me, because the threat changes daily and weekly. Sometimes we're in control, sometimes they are in control, depending on what they're developing. Global perimeter security. We leave the building unlocked. You can just walk in and out. Yes, sir, you're here for workshop 4, door 7. Yeah, just go straight in, take a seat, steal the laptops, nick it, on you go. You wander around here with a badge, you can do anything you like. Take half the kit home with you. Oh, nice television. So there's this physical issue as well. People working from home, laptops and assets from home, content. Who's that chap in the States that they're talking about? It's got all this stuff on paper at home in his place in, I can't remember, Trump or somebody. Shouldn't be taking the stuff home. Who takes their work home? Well, we all work from home. Are you at an open file share? What's the most risky file share that Microsoft has? The one that's capitalized all the time. Loads of CVs go through it. SMB. SMB's full of holes. Always has been, always will be. I turn mine off. Click, first one I get. Apple, yeah, brilliant. Filing protocol. That's why I use the Macs, to stay away from SMB. And then I ran a little test, and guess what? Guess what? My gaming machine's got switched on. Yeah, so my Call of Duty is pretty much the security weak hole in my business. So be careful of this. What's everyone up to at home? What are they doing? What are your suppliers doing? You got suppliers? Anybody got suppliers? Are they secure? Have you spoken to them about whether they're secure? Do they tell you they're secure? Can they prove it? Where did it come in? So they're more likely to come in through a trusted source or piggyback off of something to get in, rather than knock on the front door and say, excuse me, we're here to rob your house. They don't do that anymore. Customer supplier choice. I'm never going to deal with you again because you did this to me. You lost my data. You lost my money. You shipped the wrong parcel somewhere. You look at, and we make conscious choices like this all the time. What would you prefer your next parcel be delivered by? DPD or Every? I'm not saying anything, but I'm just you just get brand perceptions. People have perceptions of brands. Do you have the brand perception? Okay, what do you? Let's think of a brand. Do you like cars? Give me 3 car manufacturers. Audi, Mercedes, Vauxhall, and you struggle with the third. So most people have three things that they have in their mind. They can easily rattle off. Yeah, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Ford. Okay, and each one of those brands means something to you. So when they say to you, Audi, what do you say back? Four-sprung Dodge Technic, you see. And if they say Vauxhall, you say Rust Bucket. No, you don't. So you've got a perception of something. You immediately react to the brand. How is your brand perceived by your customers and your suppliers from a security perspective? If you get hacked and you are the BBC or are you BA, do you believe that there is zero brand impact? So if you were ITV and one of your presenters has a bit of a challenge, will your stock price go down? It did. People react to you as a company. Your suppliers react to you as a company. And if they are supplying other businesses in a secure manner and you're insecure, they will reflect upon it. And the insurance company will take the same view. They will see that as one holistic thing, this thing called an ecosystem. So who is in your ecosystem and what do you share with them? And how do you share it? You should take that into account when you work out your total economic impact when you buy something and what the exposure is to you and the business. Protect your supply chain and reduce the time. If you can do it quickly, you can save yourself an awful lot of aggravation. And we talked about these. How do they do this? Does not everybody know how they do it with an APT? You might have seen in the press. You do. How do they do it?
Generally follow the micro framework. So they start by maybe a spear phishing attack and get access to the particular machine. And from there, they get their privileges, lateral to other systems, something like an AD server that they don't react.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way in. That's not a bad system. Find a way in, move across, up, down, left, right, some more lateral in this case, north, south, east, west. Move to something else that gets you into something else, that gets you towards something of power. Then do something. So the way we look at it, and this is we've looked at every attack that's ever happened for since 2014. So we look at them every day. A MITRE framework log them as such. But it typically follows this pattern. You've got a reconnaissance phase where they're trying to work out how to get in, knocking on the door, probing. They walk around your house, look at all the windows, work out what time you leave to go to work. They're reconnoitering. They're working out the patterns of the business. They're working out how your computer system works, whether if you try and attack through a certain IP stack, they'll push back with a load of technology. Oh, that's interesting. They're using Cisco. Oh, I'll put that down. They're building up information. They're reconnoitering the system. They then go to exploit staging. They look to build something that they can use that will exploit what they already know. So they know you have a particular weakness. That might be SMB. It might be supply chain. It might be the fact that you're using Modbus 1, Modbus 2 SCADA, but you haven't got anything running on that system at all. In fact, there's 2 companies that make stuff that's quite good at that. 3 companies now. There's a really good software company in America I won't mention. There's another really good company that is building purely software only, mainly for the healthcare sector. And there's a third one, which is Kaspersky. So you'll be pleased to know that the Kaspersky in Russia built probably the most comprehensive solution for that about 7-8 years ago, which is brilliant for using against OT. So if you want to buy some good stuff, off you go. They then deliver that. So they deliver the exploit. They will payload it in. They will put it in through the network. Yes, what you said earlier. They won't put it on. They might put it on a memory stick. They might bring it in through the business. They might fly from somewhere, the People's Republic of wherever, the Soviet state of wherever, or the COS of whoever, and they might bring it in and they might plug it in your computer. It's extremely unlikely. They will be hands off. They'll put it in through the exploit and they will diffuse that exploit across the network. So they'll laterally deploy it. They'll put it across where they want to get to. When it gets there, it might not do anything. It might only be a building block. It might only be a piece of the puzzle. It might be 2 or 3 pieces of the puzzle. It might be obfuscated within something. So you've got a Palo Alto box that decrypts 14 times. They'll encrypt it 15 and they'll just miss it and it'll go straight through. But they'll only put pieces of the data across and then they'll put an assembler in at the last minute. We're talking time. They will install the persistence. They will make it real for a long period of time and they will place it somewhere where it will survive. It's designed to be kept alive and designed to be unstoppable once it's installed. And then they will detonate it. And then they will go and negotiate. So they will make that effect happen. They will attack you. They will go through a process, make it do its execution. You will have an impact. They will then contact you and say, what do you want to do now? Would you like it back on? Would you like it back off? You're going to pay the bill. Do you want those pictures back? And that's common. They all do the same process. They do it in different ways, though. This is not my chart. This is borrowed. But we put some stuff on it which does make it ours. The quicker you can have a look at it. There's lots of known attacks. You know what they are. Everyone talks about them. They come in every day. There's this research phase. What is this? Is this a 0 day? Most 0 days are not true 0 days. They're a modification to an existing technology. The big risk is once you've identified what it is and you've found out what it is, whether you can go backwards in time to see whether that was a new one. You might have caught the last bit of a 2-year attack. And that's the bit you're finding out now and going, oh, hello, what's this? Where's it been? Where's it gone? And then it could have gone all over the place. Then you've got to hunt it down. And then you've got to do something with it. Get rid of it, explode it, detonate it. Now, that might be shut down a port. It might be go and run some software. It might be isolate a machine. It might be just disconnect everything. At some point, this part is the key bit. If you can impact the remediation time, the identification of the remediation time, you will save yourself. And the difference to that is huge. The amount of damage it will be done is unstoppable. Whereas if they only get to 75%, like they have the ticking installed of the bomb and they cut the blue wire at the end, that's the equivalent electronically of doing this. If you can detect it and resolve it and stop it at that point, you're laughing. The problem is you've got so much noise coming through because you've got all this visible attacks. So you really want to be able to find the real threat as fast as is humanly possible and then stop it. Different things do different events. So this is a quick snapshot of EDR. The red one is NDR. This is what NDR is really good at. It's great at engaging, great at network exploration. It's really good at unknown threats. If you look at logs and seams, they're pretty well rounded, but known threats they're really good at because it's recording. It's event management. And if you look at EDR systems, they're pretty good at doing a bit of rounder again. You've got much more, but target detonation is what they're good at. Switch that box off. Disconnect it, flatten it, rebuild it. Thank you very much. Oh, same problem. The NDR's flagged it up. Right, do the same process again, but smash the other machine that updated it because it's the update server that's knackered, not the box. So you can use EDR as the detonation tool for the endpoints, and you can use NDR to do the discovery and the actionables, and you can use SIEM to do the events both historically and moving forward. Different tools, different jobs, and a blend is what you need. Why? Because they don't necessarily follow the same path. They may come in through the control server, they'll hit the NDR, it's the edge of the network. They may come in through a user, they'll hit the NDR, it's the edge of the network. Whatever hits the network hits the NDR, 100% of all zeros and ones. I spend most of my life trying to explain what an NDR is. An NDR is not a network product. It doesn't care. It just happens to use zeros and ones because it's the only bit you can't muck around with. Everything else beyond that, they can muck around with. The hack from yesterday from the Microsoft one was a layer 7, but you go down layer 2, layer 3, layer 5. They use different layers and payload in different things at different layers for different reasons. But the whole point is to jump about in this, and you can fully payload and go straight into target exploration. If they can get straight in a C2 server, they'll go straight for control and then tell the other servers to do the same thing. And they'll try and essentially DDoS through. So there's the entry point is always the same, the edge of the network, but what they execute and the way they execute it is not lateral. They can go back and forth. They can go up and down and left and right within your network, super rapid, and they're tasked to do that. So unless you've got 100% of all traffic through all devices, both IT and non-IT, through all protocols, that's the bit I'm going to hit. Because it's an advanced persistent threat, it's not a spear phishing attack. So I'll come in over, supposing you run an aeroplane center, what do they call those things? Airports. What have you got to worry about? So you've got access control, you've got video, you've got perimeter security, you've got flight logging systems, you've got ILS, you've got ATC, you've got passenger data, you've got money, you've got retail, you've got Wi-Fi, the list is endless. It's a whole blend of protocols. And that's what an NDR should be looking at, 100% of it, because it's looking for the transition between those networks and between those technologies, because it knows that you've already bought a really good firewall. There's no point in smashing on the front door. I'll just nip round the back. So this is this MITRE framework attack, whatever, reconnaissance weaponized. You want a number of things. Look for technologies that overlap each other. Look for technologies that give you the most amount of effect, multiple engines, multiple methodologies that will identify the particular type of threat. We use different engines. We use a load of engines that were built. There's 14. We add a 15 and a 16. Every time we do so, there's a new attack profile, and we add those engines into our platform. Some of them are rules-based. Why do you need rules-based AI? What's AI good at? AI is brilliant at grunt work, adding a level of intelligence onto volumetric stuff. Do this 25,000 times, learn from it, and then do something else. What's rules good for? Rules gives you the parameters to make those decisions for the AI. So when you were a kid, you never said to your child, your mum never said, just go over there and play on the motorway, son, see how it goes. If you learn anything, let me know. They don't do that. You've got to say, look, that's hot, don't stick your fingers in it. The oven is hot, the fire is hot. Hot things are hot, don't touch. Hot, burn, ouch. Give it some rules. So we use rules-based or signature-based detection methods for some of our work. Then we use AI. Who uses AI? Who likes AI? Yeah, AI is great. What sort of AI do you use? EDR, okay. So what sort of EDR what sort of AI do you use? Behavioral, okay. So what is behavioral detection? Behavioral detection is this. You rock up first day of school, you're a kid. You walk in the playground, all the kids are punching each other in the face. What behavior are you going to learn? To punch all the kids in the face. It learns that as good behavior. That's a false positive. So you have to give it a rule and say, look, don't punch each other in the face. That's bad. So a combination of rules and AI. AI comes in different flavors, heuristic learning. It comes in semi-supervised. It comes in hybrid. It comes in machine learning. We use different AI engines. Don't get hung up on my pitch about NDR and we use the blah, blah, blah. This is what you care about. From a customer's perspective, what are you doing that overlaps, whether it's deep learning or supervised or statistical analysis or heuristic or behavior, I don't care. How many times are you going to look at this packet group of information to find these things as they come through, and at what point are you going to catch it? Because it'll get past this maybe, or it might get past this, or this, or this, or this, but at some point, will it get caught? All we're giving you is the best possible chance. So NDR is there designed to do that. There are different manufacturers of NDR. I'm sure you know some brands. You should definitely look at NDR. You should definitely investigate who the players are. There are a few people that make NDR. There are lots of companies that say they make NDR, and they don't. There are a few companies that make good NDRs. And I think we're one of them. I think we make a well-rounded, well-functional NDR. But there are others in the market. You should look at them. They do different things. Here's a snapshot of, they should talk to everything else you've got properly. We're not the best marketing company in the world. My slides are not the best in the world. I'm definitely not the best presenter in the world. The technology's good. We're an engineering security firm. It has to plug into everything. If they turn around to you and say, oh, it doesn't quite work with that, mate, we've got to do a lot of work to make that work, walk away. It should plug into everything you already have and everything you're about to buy, because you've got a plan, haven't you? You're going to rip that kitchen out in 2 weeks and you're going to replace it because it's an impact on the business. So you're going to take everything, you replace it, and you're going to put in an entire system, and it's going to look at the metadata. It's going to look at the SIG flow. It's going to be an active CTI, command and control. It's going to look for both retro hunting and active hunting. So you can go backwards off your own aspects through your entire historic data, but it will also electronically use the AI engines to go and hunt for a 0 day that you might have missed and find the source as to whether it's detonated or it's been payloaded or it's been distributed or it's about to be exploited. So you should be able to do the same thing for DGA, domain name. You should do the same thing for ransomware and also beacon detection and also shellcode and PowerShell. That is a well-rounded NDR. You will be able to buy bits of this puzzle. The reason you're using 16 Malcore engines, by the way, is there's 4 geographic regions in the world. You might be interested to know that the organization that put in the last hacks that went into the BBC used to detonate if you had a Cyrillic character set installed on your machine. They removed that functionality and then sold it out on the dark web. So they've changed their position of retaining their own they used to give it away and make money out of that. They're now keeping it internally. So someone's funding them. So on top of all that, you want an augmented analyst, something which is going to do the workload of a decent level 1 SOC engineer electronically to pull all that data together. Because guess what? There's another load of traffic coming behind it. Analyze it, and then let you decide what you want to do. There is no automated remediation. Do not do that. I've seen the damage. Before I started doing this, before I started doing 2FA, there was this thing called web application firewalling. And it used behavioral analysis. Brilliant. Red, green, blue, traffic lighting, worked brilliantly. But if you switched on the automated resolution, the phones lit up like a Christmas tree because all it did was just block everything all the time. False positives are a nightmare for web application firewalling. They seem to have fixed a lot of that. This is early days. So you want a really smart NDR that can then give you the answer and say, this is the threat you're looking for. Don't worry about all that. That's noise. AI, different things. Use, if you want to do automated detection of malicious code, use Kerberos, use hybrid detection. It's the best way of using AI. But if you're doing phishing, use a hybrid model, but SMTP, different protocol, different engine, different methodology. The right hammer for the right job. Put that in the mix. Make sure it's cost effective. Cost effective. I'll use the word cleverly, but don't pay a fortune for this. It's too hard, too expensive. We pay an awful lot of money for a lot of stuff we might not need. And yet some stuff that's really, really good is actually very cost effective. Just got to find out what it is. Why? Because you're trying to build up a bill to say that I put a brand new kitchen in, darling. It's all done. I bought it from Howdens or Magnet or whatever. I didn't buy Neptune and spent 40 grand and stuck it on the top of the mortgage because you never get the budget. So putting in an NDR, why would you do that? Because if you can combine an NDR with a CTI, it gives you the best chance electronically of doing all the work for the staff you can't hire. And it gives you the best chance of stopping the threat before it turns into reality. If it turns into reality, you've got a real problem on your hands. And everybody in the last few weeks, months, I've been speaking, it's not us, it's never us. It's always the bloke next door until you get done. And then it's a major problem. And in the last few weeks, we've seen it's becoming really prevalent. And they're getting worse. They're not slowing down. So do a decent budget, forecast, build that money, look at that list of things you're going to buy for your kitchen, work out whether she wants 3 ovens, whether we need the floor replacing, whether I'm going to rewire the whole lot. Build that journey that you are going to do over 2 or 3 years, but then cost it out as an impact issue on the business and get it done. Don't hang around because I have those calls every day. Yeah, we're on a journey. I tell you what, once we've got these projects finished, Adrian, in the next 2 years, we're going to look at, and I'm like, yeah, okay, mate, no problem. Good luck. You are absolutely screwed because what you have is not doing the job. At worst, you're being unprofessional. If you took it about the other way, it'd be virtually negligent because there are solutions out you could look at. Why don't you look at them? If they're rubbish, bin them. Send them back. This didn't do the job. Does not do what it says on the tin. Go away. That's the whole point, isn't it, of demos and POCs and all the other good stuff. Try and get the thing implemented as soon as you can to give yourself the best chance of catching APTs. It's a very slim chance because it's a really small percentage, but they're devastating when they hit. Look at what you've got for your SOC capabilities now, detection, resolution, remediation, and look how hard they're working and how many they flag up as issues that are not really issues. They're server patches or they're issues with other suppliers or their supply chain flags that are from a threat from another company that isn't a threat. But get the early stage detection and you're better off resolving false positives now electronically than you are resolving an APT after the event. It costs you a lot more less money. the impact is huge. I can't sort of take you through it a lot. If someone would like to talk to me afterwards about it, I'm more than happy. I'll stick around. It's what we'll be talking about for the next 3 days, to be honest with you. There's two types of customer: the ones that have not been attacked and the ones that have. And it's easy talking to them if they've had some form of product in place and they're constantly searching for new ways and they're looking at what us and others are doing to try and keep up. Bearing in mind, these are governments, these are military, they're not commercial organizations. Some of those commercial organizations also talk to us and are very, very aware of the issues. I'm here today to try and say to you, it is a problem. You should be aware of it. There is a war on. There is a great deal of individuals, organizations and states that are spending a lot of time and effort making this stuff really good. And putting an NDR into the system. Detection speed is critical. Find the problem, resolve it. Don't look at it after the event. If you're worrying about it after the event, it's way, way too late. Look for something with rules and AI. AI is great, but it's artificial. It learns bad habits. You use the right hammer for the right job. Look for rules. We have 100,000 rules on our box. We update 6,000 a day. A day. That's off of 1 million IOCs a day. And that's offline and online. So man with stick walks past man with gun, sticks it in back of a machine. So you right the way through to air gap. And low band stuff as well. Visibility, we call it cartography. Does this give me a nice pretty picture? We all do pretty pictures, by the way. They all look great. Can you get to the answer quickly? Don't tell me about this fantastic photograph or lovely picture of the network. Tell me where the threat is right now and how to fix it. Will it give me a MITRE attack? Can I go into the stack? Can I click on the packet? Can I see the transaction? Can I see the SIG flow? Can I resolve it right now? Because it needs to be right now. All the rest of it's noise. Forget it. That you do that by enriching the data, making it super smart on box. That's what it's supposed to do. Otherwise, you're doing all the work, and it will wipe you out. You'll never keep up because you're basically drinking the ocean. Every time you suck a packet in, there's another one straight behind it with potentially another problem. I'll finish on this one. TEI, Forrester did a load of work on TEI. It's well worth a read and looking at the impact stuff. And they have some methodologies you can go through. I've talked a little bit about it with NDR. This one is a quote from a government security agency. I won't tell you which one, but it said the remotes were immediate. 5 minutes into deploying the NDR, we detected the first abnormal behavior. They call it abnormal behavior. You can guess what it was. It's not abnormal behavior. The impact was instantaneous. You do not know what you do not know. So use the next few days to not just buy the stuff that's on your roadmap and work out what you want to do, but try and find out what you don't know and get them to explain to you what that really looks like. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions if you want to. Thank you. You've been really attentive. I know it's hot. I know it's me droning on for 45 minutes. So I do apologise. But it's a passionate subject to me because I have had those conversations with you and I do not want to have the conversation with you next week or the week after about what's happened. I'd rather you tell me why you don't need it and we prove that you don't. So thank you very much and enjoy the show.